Hi, everybody. This is Jim Towns. I'm the writer-director of The Possession of Anne, and I'd like to welcome you to the director and the writer audio commentary, and also the editor. I also edited the film. The Possession of Anne had an interesting beginning. Unlike any of my other films, Sadie Katz and I had worked on a couple projects before. I'm going to talk more about Sadie in just a little bit. And she reached out to me. We hadn't spoken in a little while. We'd both been on other things. And she reached out to me and said, I have this idea for a film that I want to do. And it's about a woman who's possessed and nobody believes her, so she has to exorcise herself. And she said, what do you think about that? And I said, well, I started writing a story, a film about that in like 2016 or 14 or 16 or something like that, like 8 years before. And I hit page 30 and kind of stalled. So I think it's a great idea because I've already written the first act. So let's do it. We were both at a point where we just hadn't, been in charge of our own thing for a little while, each of us. And we wanted to work together again. I cast Sadie as Syra in House of Bad in 2010 or 11. And that was, I believe, her first horror feature role, if I'm not mistaken. She'd done other films, but I think that was the first horror film she'd done. And obviously she's gone on to do quite a few more since then. So I'm not saying that's all on her. It has nothing to do with me, but I saw the talent there waiting. I'll take claim for that. Anyway, I cast her in my 2014 film, Stave Desolation, which I believe is finally going to be coming out sometime soon after a very long post-production. And then she brought me in on her directorial debut, the Bill Murray Experience, I should say. And I sort of came on as a producer for that and kind of helped. She'd already shot most of it, and I kind of helped shepherd it, sort of towards completion, and did some animation on it, and I edited that film as well. So we'd worked together on a bunch of things, and we, have a great working relationship, and we have a great friendship as well outside of, the film business. So, it seemed like a great idea. And then it all started. Those opening shots were shot. Those were pickups, actually, that I shot myself. I was the cinematographer for those scenes, and those were shot in a Ukrainian Catholic church off of Sunset here in L.A. that Sadie had found the location for. We had not originally planned to shoot in a church during production, and I think we were on day 3 or 4 when Sadie came up to me and said, you know what, I found this church location. Let's change some scenes and go there and shoot. Which is not an insignificant deal. But we decided to do it anyway. And I'm so glad we did. I'm so glad she found this church because this location was phenomenal. We just lit it kind of cool. We didn't really do much to it. It was just there that way, and it still is as far as I know. So we were glad to be able to use this great location. It's fantastic. So Sadie and I had done some stuff together, and let's see, when she reached out to me, it was probably September maybe of 2021, and we were shooting by December. So this happened extremely fast, this production. I wrote it very quickly. We got the okay to move forward on it. I had a gig in that October that I got to say, thankfully didn't happen, because otherwise I think it would have been really tough to prep this film the way it needed to be done. We had a lot of help from a guy named Jimmy Starr, who's a producer on this film. He really worked really hard to get the funding in place. The funding got in place. The funding fell through. New funding came in place. That funding kind of changed, and then finally, just kind of in the nick of time, we had the money we needed to do this. Not a lot. I was dedicated, frankly, to make sure this film was as pro-looking and really artistic as I could have wanted it to be, and we hired the crew that needed to do that, and that required us to shoot very quickly because we had a lot of people. People are, we got to pay people, you got to feed people, you got to pay for locations, so you make that up by shooting really damn quick, and we shot really damn quick. So here is The possession of Anne. The film was originally, I don't think this is a secret, the film was originally titled The Beast Inside, and that title changed
Hey, Sam.
for various reasons, some of them very good reasons.
I did.
And so if you hear me reference it as The Beast Inside, please know that you are listening to the correct commentary. Here we go. Sadie's character, I really, I just wanted Sadie to play someone really likable who was having a really tough time. And
And it's not me.
the way you make her likable is that you make likable people
He said
love
you can't
her.
just show up like this. It needs to be scheduled,
Despite all the
supervised.
issues. And so we were very lucky. We had Anthony Preston playing
Welcome to
Daniel,
the bad guy
her estranged
I
husband.
want him to spend time with you.
And we had Presley James Crosby, who's done a whole lot of stuff for a young man,
Sam's aunt.
playing her son.
Not his mom.
The idea is that,
Look, I'm serious.
again, this original idea that she's possessed and no one believes her. So they make all the other assumptions that she has prescription drug issues or that she has mental health issues. All the
make sure he's safe, and frankly,
and this goes into some stuff I want to talk about that there was a personal reason for me to start the film and kind of has some of the factual basis that this film is based on. But on the top of it, it's really about
is it any better
a woman who's not being believed.
with the new medication?
There's something wrong with her and no one believes her. Do they not believe her because she's a woman? Do they just not believe her? I don't know, but you can make the connections to that you'd like. And they'd all be right, no matter what. I think it's in the eye of the beholder. So much of the context, we bring to you, and you as the viewer bring your own context to it, and complete the story yourself. So that way, everyone's watching their own individual movie. No two experiences are the same, and I think that's the way it should be. I'm going to shout out Chad Courtney right now. He was our cinematographer on the film. He shot House of Bad as well with me and Sadie. So to some degree, this movie is kind of like trying to get some of the band back together, and I was very happy to do that because I loved all the people I worked with on House of Bad. Chad's astonishingly good. He works and lives out of Seattle, though, so it was a matter of sort of convincing the producers, like, in the middle of LA, why we had to import a director of photography from another state. It's not like you can't find one here, but I'm so glad we did. Chad and I have a great working relationship. He's incredibly talented. He's incredibly nice, which anyone who's worked with DPs know, like, it's kind of a sliding scale. Like, sometimes you get really talented guys that, personality-wise can give you a little fractious. Sometimes you get really nice guys who, maybe something's lacking in the artistry. Chad, you get both of those things, and I can't wait to work with him again. He and I have a great relationship, and I'm always happy with what I see on screen. I should also mention Michelle Costco, our AC powerhouse, who assisted Chad in all the cinematography work, and Guido Oreo, who was our gaffer, who just lit the crap out of this film. It just looks so good. I'm so happy. For the first time, I really didn't have to do a whole lot in color correction. We tweaked it and pushed it a little bit, and we cooled it down a little bit, but really what you see is almost 90% what I got on the day, and I was so happy about that. I was so happy to have a completed thing. Sadie actually put those mealworms in her mouth. Those were alive. We didn't quite get as much of the motion out of them as I wanted, but those were alive, and Sadie put them in her mouth for a little bit and then through. I have a little cameo there where I say, "Are you all right?" That's me shouting from outside. We didn't even loop that. That was just me shouting from outside the door, I think. Here is Kim Marie Austin. She was our casting director and also played a role in this thing. She got us so many great people. She got us Anthony. She got us Danelle, who plays the sister-in-law. She's fantastic. We shot this up at Four Heart Studio. This is sort of, what this first act is doing is really setting the stage, letting you take a few minutes to get to know Anne and to get inside her skin and walk in her shoes, or whatever, phrase you'd like me to use, to really understand the crisis that she's dealing with. Things are getting worse for her. They're not getting better. They're getting worse. They started out not great, and they've only gone downhill from there.
Yes.
She has to go to court-mandated therapy as stipulation for getting to see her son every once in a while, and she's only allowed to have supervised visits with her son. there's something has happened in the past, and we don't get into it, but there was probably an incident. At some point, I think in the script there was a moment where we talked about some kind of incident that she'd had, like an attack in a public place, like a drugstore or something, where the kid was at risk, and that is sort of the
Hey, Annie.
the starting point for her not living at home, her only being able to see her son under supervised conditions, and what have you. Kind of a late addition was starting each act and act break with these close-ups of worms turning into cocoons, turning into butterflies. This idea of transformation would be great.
You are seeing someone about these experiences.
So what she's doing is she's going through all the motions and trying to figure out if there's any conventional way to fight this thing that's happening. So she already, as we've seen, she's gone to a therapist. She's going to see a doctor after having these attacks, and obviously she's thrown up bugs. So here's Ron Russell. He's a partner of Jimmy Star, our producer. I swear to God, he just looks like Scorsese when he put these glasses on and the lab coat. And I think he's fantastic in this. He's a very older gentleman. He's worked with Jane Russell. He's worked with like serious film history people. So it was really fun to have him for a little cameo. And here we have Denise Milford playing the Reiki therapist. So now, she's getting more and more desperate, and she's trying more and more alternative methods. And this is the idea being that this is going to finally lead her into exploring supernatural methods of thing. And I guess with the exception of the doctor, each of these incidents gets worse and worse and worse. And Anne herself is having trouble
what is your mind's eye showing
knowing what is really happening. Like how is actual reality being affected by what is going on with her, and how much of it is she just visually hallucinating. She's starting to not be able to trust reality, and she's not being able to trust her own senses and experiences. So that's the issue. And we haven't, we've taken our time again. And I think another part of this film was the idea going in this was make a classic older style film that takes its time and that trusts the audience to be intelligent and doesn't just have to feed them
Did you hear me?
data
Get the fuck out!
and kind of condescend to the audience.
I still have to pay you.
But still is
my
making an
name.
entertaining film, like,
out of
giving
my
you
sacred
good
place.
stuff like this, like a good old heart ripped out, right? I worked really hard to get that editing right on this thing. This was, this got very, while I'm saying we're doing something kind of retro, that got pretty contemporary and kind of jazzy right there, all that cut editing. So that was a lot of fun to do. I loved writing this character. I love the Reiki therapist. I love how all the new age stuff drops and she's like, "Get out of my sacred space." It was really funny. It's fun watching when we watched this premiere, and we got a good laugh with the audience with that scene and this and the saging that she's doing. Again, so Anne is getting more and more desperate, and as she gets more desperate, she's going to reach out to someone that she, I think, was trying to hold off on talking to, and someone who we very briefly saw towards the beginning of the film for just a minute in the flashback. We have Vernon Wells' character, Father Jeffrey. I have been a Vernon Wells fan since way back, since probably the first time I watched The Road Warrior on HBO in, I don't know if that was maybe 1984 or 1985 or something, whenever it came on there. And I was really excited that we got Vernon for this. This is John Pasquale. He's also one of our producers, and as a producer, we gave him a small part. And that small part, once he showed up and once I really saw what he could do, got bigger and bigger because I really was enjoying his look. He kind of has this Billy Bob Thornton thing about him. And the character, this kind of beat down motel manager guy, he just got that manager. I mean, as a guy who's not beat down and who's not an unfortunate person, he's quite successful. It's like he knew that guy, and I started really enjoying seeing him in scenes. I think I started putting him in more scenes than he started. Here's our motel room. We are at we are in Atwater Village in LA. This is actually pretty close to where Sadie lives, so it kind of worked out as kind of our base of operations. We sort of used Atwater Village. We shot the bar scene there too. We shot a few of the other scenes there. Atwater Village kind of became our little backlot. It was kind of interesting. We had we had permits for everything, but it was fun to just be able to roll around and get everything. Sadie had a very notable shower scene in House of Bad, and so when I wrote a shower scene for this, she was like, "Really, dude, again?" And I was like, "No. We're gonna do this one classy style. We're not gonna. This scene is not. These scenes are not to titillate the teenagers. These are actually interesting character moments." And she went with it. And then I think when she finally saw how I was gonna do it, she was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. Great, thank you." We're gonna have the first hint of our demon character coming up right here, and this is one of the things I would kind of, I guess I wasn't totally sure it was going to work, and then when it happened I was like, oh no, that worked, that's good. And I will say that
So what happened with those kids?
in a film like this, and in any film, but especially in a kind of sort of cerebral horror film, let's say, that's a little light on action and a little heavy on themes and character.
Weird.
The music and sound is so absolutely critical. You can't believe it. So it was so great to have
Not you.
Biahani and Josh and all those great folks at Lux Studios and at Empire doing the sound for us and cranking it up. And it was great, obviously, having Randy Edelman, the great Randy Edelman, who's done Ghostbusters 2 and Last of the Mohicans and Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. So many of my favorite scores ever that I wanted to gush when I talked to him. Having Randy Edelman do the score is fantastic. All right. And speaking of fantastic, yep, here we go. So this was the first night of shooting. We shot this bar's location was actually right across the street from the motel location. So we had a lot of people actually staying at the motel while we were using one of the rooms as a location. So again, the whole thing sort of worked out very well.
I think we are getting a little bit
This is Eileen. She was one of our producers as well, and gave her this little cameo thing, and I think she killed it there. I think her look was great, and she suffered through those contacts. I'll talk about those white contacts in a little while.
Need to understand.
This is a little fun little effect scene, and you've seen it in other things, and there's things that I try not to do just because you've seen them elsewhere, and there's things that I go, you know what, maybe we see those things in other things because they work. And this little split screen here we did was so simple, and I think it has a great little impact. It's almost a blink and you miss it thing. Here's Will Ford. He's a friend of mine, and he and I have collaborated on a ton of projects together. So, when you need a bartender at 3 a.m, he shows up. He's great. The bar, again, as I said, was right across the street from the motel, and we had it. This is our first night shooting. We had it from 3 a.m. to, I believe, 9 a.m. So we had like 6 hours to do this whole conversation scene, which is sort of, there's 2 sections of it. There's 3 sections of it almost. And the scene later on where Anne comes back into the bar all dressed up and made up and looking all fine and seduces the motel manager. So that's a lot to do in 9 hours, or in 6 hours, I should say. Especially these big dialogue scenes, because you got to do the coverage and you really are working on performance. And this scene is absolutely critical to get right, because here's where we learn all this very important information that there is something inside Anne. There's some kind of demonic force inside Anne, and that it is an inherited possession. It possessed her mom and killed her at the end, and when she died, it passed to her. And we find that it actually there's a allusion to the idea that it actually possessed Anne's grandfather, her mom's dad, before it possessed her mom. So it's a hereditary thing. It's like a genetic disease for this family, for the Williams family. And this is critical because it sets up the stakes that if Anne doesn't do something about this and this demon kills her, it's going to jump to her son. So this is what makes Anne the hero of the story. I mean, she's brave and she's beautiful and she's, smart and everything all on her own, but it's important that there is a ticking clock. and the ticking clock is that, look, this demon's going to use Anne up. She's getting weaker and weaker as the film goes on, and when she dies, her son is going to inherit this curse, and she has to do anything she can to protect her son. The movie's, there's a lot of characters in the movie, but there's really a two-parter. And the other side is Father Jeffrey, and I want to talk about him in just a little bit. He's really critical. But I wanted them both to be, there's this toast, and they talked, to two lost souls, and it's important to me that there's these two desperate characters that come together out of kind of necessity, and that necessity turns into a deeper relationship as the film goes on. This was fun to do. Sadie just had to go for it here, and I'll tell you, without sound and without, music or anything like that, this kind of thing can look a little silly, and I think an actor can just feel pretty stupid doing some stuff. I know when we were sort of prepping the film, Sadie was sending me like little photos and videos where she was at home practicing possession stuff, and I thought that was it was really funny. Hey, here's some photos of me possessed in a nightgown. Like, okay, thanks. And I think her husband came in like, what are you doing? I think this is really effective. And we shot it. We narrowed up the shutter a little bit, gave it that little bit of different kinetic feel. And Chad just really she only did it I think she did it twice. I mean, it's very exhausting kind of stuff to do. I mean, you can look at that and understand that you can only do that a couple times before there's not a whole lot left in the tank. And Sadie had already been acting all day when we did this. I am proud of having found this 1930s era version of it's a film called Scrooge, and it was in public domain. It was made, I believe, in England, and
I just wanted to say I'm sorry.
It was a big deal for us setting this film in
I really do want to help.
Around Christmas. It just early on, I fixated on that, and I think it just became such a fun idea that we were doing a Christmas exorcism movie. I just thought it was great. And so finding that thing and having him and finding that moment where he's talking about Tiny Tim and stuff, and you don't have to ever reference what the movie is or name it by title, and everyone almost watching it, I would hope, knows exactly what that is. So it's kind of fun. Again, Scrooge and the Christmas Carol itself is about the transformation of one person from one type of person into another. So I think it works.
Things like that,
I want to talk about this Father Jeffrey's house location at some point too, pretty soon. So this is great. I like making intense films. My last feature film before this was State of Desolation, and State of Desolation is a very intense, very serious film. And as I've gotten a little older, I enjoy the intensity. Don't get me wrong, so you can see in all this, but I think it's important to have the lighter moments. I really learned that on my first film, which had nothing light about it, nothing funny. And when I watched that with an audience, I realized that, the audience needs that release every once in a while. They need something just to let them off the hook and let them giggle. And that will amplify the intensity. The two things contrast against each other, and you need that, because otherwise the audience is going to find things funny that you don't want them to find funny, and, now you're in trouble. So this was a little pickup we shot at El Camino College. Sadie was actually a couple months, 2 months pregnant, or I think at this point. And so we were shot it kind of carefully to hide any kind of slight physical changes that were starting to take place. Again, I shot this myself, which is probably why it doesn't look as good as the rest of the film. But I think with color correction, it came out looking great. I love research scenes. I love the idea of someone going to a library again, and we could have had her just scrolling the internet and doing Googling demons or whatever. But there's nothing like going through a good old book and really seeing these etchings and stuff. And again, this idea of not to whatever, it's almost like irritable bowel syndrome or something. It's almost like the attack is coming on you in public, and you've got to be oh crap, here it comes. And luckily this one kind of passes for her, so I love it. I believe that was maybe second to last shot of the film was just an insert at my wife's office if the Xerox is coming out. This is my first wet down I've ever had for a movie. There was a hose out front of the thing when she's coming back, and I was like, let's hose down the sidewalk just a little bit, get that light kicking. So someone did that for me. There you go. It's my first thing.
You can help, you can criticize, but if you're gonna do the latter, you can.
Our sound guys were just fantastic in this film. I just want to shout them out, just because we're shooting right next to a main road here, and we managed to get, really, really good sound there. So thanks to
I know
that.
you way too well, sweet one.
Back in the motel,
You are going
so
to
we
try
did.
to exercise this thing out of
I
yourself.
think it was 4 days. I think it was 4 consecutive days in the motel room.
Bad.
And I would just like to
Bad?
mention to everyone that this
Bad does
was
not
during
even
COVID.
get
This is
anywhere near
2021, so it's during the second
covering
year
what I think
of
this whole
the
idea.
COVID-19
all
thing.
this
So
exorcism stuff was not
everyone was vaxxed by then. I think some people were
I'm only
even
looking out
boosted
for
at that
you.
point. The crew all had to mask.
trying to protect myself.
Most actors masked until they were doing their scene. It
feel it,
it
right?
on top of everything else, on top of a tight budget, on top of a very tight schedule, on top of all the other issues that
You wanna see
affect you when you're doing low budget indie film.
I was a little girl in Catholic school.
The COVID thing was a real challenge, trying to guarantee the safety of your cast and crew. First of all, because you want everyone to be healthy and safe, and you don't want anyone to get sick. Of course you don't. Also, though, I mean, if in a production like this, if you have someone go down, if you have someone get sick, if you have a main actor, God forbid, come down with something, you're really, really, really screwed. So, because you do not have the time to postpone and send people back to Seattle and then have them come back in and stuff, man. It's tough. This is a fun scene because obviously. Vernon is about 3 times Sadie's size, so the idea of her being able to overpower him is something really intense. I don't remember when I'd had this idea of this priest who has had some kind of bad history with children. We don't specify it, and I didn't want to. The important thing was the idea that, because I didn't want anyone to think I was basing off of anything specific, frankly. That was really part of my reason. The idea that he's a fallen soul, he's on the outs with the big man as well.
Hold on.
Something that kind of got maybe a little lost in the filmmaking is the idea that Anne herself is not a believer as much. Her faith has been shaken. You start out with her in church, and then her mom dies, and it's years later, and all this stuff has happened, and her faith is shaken. So it's Father Jeffrey's faith has never been shaken, but he's sinned, and he no longer has the clout and the authority or whatever of a man of his former station.
Should do me for the rest of the week.
And the whole idea is, Anne can try to exercise herself all she wants. She can do all this stuff, but she doesn't have the belief.
You're welcome.
And it has nothing to do with which religion is right or wrong or anything like that. That's absolutely not the point I was trying to make. It has to do with that she just doesn't have the belief in a power that is beyond human knowledge to succeed. And it isn't until, spoilers, hopefully you've seen the film if you're listening to this, it isn't until a man of actual faith steps in to help her that she is finally successful in ridding herself of this demon. That was Sadie's nude scene that I was talking over, by the way. So, I don't know. There it was. That was fun. Here we have our second shower scene. Again, shooting this one quite tastefully. We should try to shoot that one tastefully. I joked on set that this has no inspiration in my actual life or anything. Running your hand through your hair in the shower and coming out with a whole clump full of it. I used to have really long hair, and now I don't. So there you go. Here's our second metamorphosis interstitial, I guess is what I called them. They put in some awesome sound effects in this, like really like slimy, gross kind of things. Because honestly, like without that, if you look at this thing, he's kind of cute. So we had to really work with the color and with that. And the color is another thing I'll talk about. Matt McClure, our lead post supervisor, was also our colorist, and he really worked with me in a nice way to just. It was about subtlety when it came to color with this thing. It wasn't about these bold choices. It was about these little tweaks that just helped us maintain, even in the lighter mood scenes, still maintain kind of the dread that has to pervade the whole film for it to work dramatically. There you go. It's a fun scene with Presley. This was a pickup too. We'd had Danelle's character Meredith in the film a bit, and then some some schedules had gotten confused. We had to fix some things on the fly, and her character's scenes, some of them were given to Anthony, to the husband, and then some of them just weren't able to be shot. So the result of that was that Meredith's character sort of suddenly just showed up halfway through the film, and while she'd been briefly referenced in the opening scene, there was a worry. It was kind of like, what? Who's that? Suddenly shows up. So we did a little pickup scene with her playing with a kid, just to cement in the audience's idea of who this person is, and she showed up. She's great. Danelle's great. I can't wait to work with Danelle some more too, because she's always comes ready to play and is really fun. Here's our first exorcism scene by Christmas Light, which I love. Again, sound really and music really helping here. It's this idea of someone who's just, it's the 10,000 hour thing, isn't it? Like you got to get good at things. I think so many people in our culture just, there's this understanding, there's this idea of like, well, if you're just talented or if you're really like passionate, you'll just succeed. And in my experience, that yes, it happens, but I kind of have a more journeyman approach to my art, especially my craft, filmmaking and writing. And I think it takes time and you have to practice, and you have to earn the right to be as skilled as you are in a way. So it's no wonder that Anne's first attempt at this exorcism just fails miserably, because she doesn't know what she's doing, and that's okay. She is outnumbered by this thing of one. Really, she's outclassed. She's fighting a foe that she is not prepared for in any way. She's determined. She's brave. She's dedicated. But there you have it. If you keep an eye on the Christmas lights around the window, you'll see at some point they start changing. And that was a kind of a thing I was very obsessed with our art director Gretel Falkenstein. That the room subliminally changes a little bit as time goes on, and it happens gradually, and you never notice it, but the room gets more darker and the color starts changing. Here's the first shots of the demon. Daniel, that was the last shot that I shot in the film, is that insert of the phone ringing, and Daniel. It was Sadie's idea to take these two scenes and start intercutting them, and I thought that was fantastic. I had them kind of separate, and man, and anyone out there who's a filmmaker, who's a director, would-be director, I'll just say, there's times where people come to you ideas and you got to stand your ground, and there's times where people get you with ideas and you deserve to give yourself a chance to try those, because every once in a while those ideas are just going to come out awesome. And where did you go? You scared me. This is great. I'd come up with this idea in the original script, was this battle that happens in the under the covers world, and making it red was kind of a last minute choice because I had a color palette I really wanted to work on this film. But I love this, and let's get your ball. Let's go home. And I thought this scene came out very cool and very terrifying. Those we had to be careful because those nails were real and they were long and kind of sharp. We had to really work on that. The shot where the bedclothes kind of flip over and go on top of her, I'll just tell you, was the dumbest thing in the world. That's just a reverse shot. She was sitting there and we ripped them off, and then we just reversed it and sped it up a little bit. And honestly, it's sound and music. It's the sting that sells that thing, man. Yeah, this is fantastic. That F-bomb was an improv. That was not, I don't think, in the script. Oh, we saw a butterfly. So you're going to see more butterflies as we go on and on. Here's Anthony Preston in a good scene with young Presley. Anthony was great having on set, man. I mean, this guy, he works so much, and he's such a pro. And for a guy as good looking as he is and talented, he's way too nice too. Like, he should be more arrogant, but he's not. He's super friendly. So it's fun. I'm glad to have met him on the shoot, and I'm glad to now be buds with him, because he's fun to talk to and he's fun to hang with and stuff. Again, hope I get to do more stuff with him too. Great dude. Yeah. Oh man. Presley was great. Presley, working with kids is a challenge. Their attention span is not what an adult's is. But you get these certain kids that have the dedication and get what the job is and find the play that exists within acting, right? Because there's play there. There's playful. And that works. and it'll be a good experience. So that's the trick. It's all in the casting, and again, thanks to our casting for nailing that.
Okay. I'll tell
We had a problem with it. Was that close up, which I think was like an
I'll let
85
you,
millimeter, or maybe it was
call
50,
somebody
but it might have been
right back
85. We were shooting this, and at one point I was looking at my monitor, and there's all those silver balls or gold balls on the tree, and I looked at him. I was like, is it me, or can I see the entire crew reflected upside down in one of those balls? And Chad looked, and he's like, you know what? You can. There's all of us. So we had to move some ornaments and reshoot that one close up at the very least, just to make sure that you didn't see everybody. Which we probably could have left it in; it would have been fun, but it's okay. This is Chad. We were shooting again in this. The motel location was a practical location. It was not a stage or a set, which meant you can't pull out a wall. You can only go so far back and shoot. And this necessitated me going, Thanks
for taking over.
I don't know when it happened, but I sort of have always been a long lens guy. I love these 50 mils, and I love 85s. I love the bokeh and the how everything goes out of focus in the background, that shallow depth of field. And for this one, added necessity. I mean, we had some of those great shots, but then we also had to go wide a little bit too. We had to go down to 25s and 12s and
Are you serious?
or 15s, and we shot on Leica class mostly.
Yeah.
And
Are you?
and I gotta say, I think this film kind of turned me into a bit of a fan of long lens photography, and I think my next film I'm going to be doing a lot more wide lens, and I think in the future I'm going to be doing some more wide lens kind of stuff. I like it. I like the feel. I don't know. I'm getting there.
Of course not.
This was going to be Meredith's first scene where she shows up, and the worry was that she's the sister who's come to stay with the husband to help raise the kid, and the worry was we'd done the scene and she was wearing these little shorts and whatnot, and the worry was there was going to be confusion in the audience that she was a lover, that they were romantically involved, and she had spent the night or something, and we didn't want that. That's not the story we're trying to tell. The story we're trying to do here is we're trying to sell the risk, because now the sister-in-law has come in, and the husband, the sister-in-law, and the son are now forming their own little family, and Anne's on the outside of that, and there's a real risk here. They don't absolutely, the husband loves her and the son loves her, but they don't absolutely need her anymore, and that's dangerous because she could easily go away and stop being part of that family, and she could lose everything she loves. So it's critical that she solves this problem that she's got, or else again she's going to lose everything she loves. She's fighting for this. So Anne has gone to the the hardware store, and she's bought some supplies this time. She again with the idea of self-exercising. And the idea with exorcism, I guess I should talk about exorcism a little bit in film.
You're not too scared. You're gonna show yourself.
There's been a lot of exorcism films, obviously, over the years. There's the one obvious watershed, The Exorcist, the film based on the book by William Peter Blatty. It's one of those things where, like, as I said, that's a watershed moment. That's an icon of the film, and if you're going to do an exorcism film, which is this kind of like sub-genre of horror, right? And again, plenty of people have, you got to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to run away from that icon, or are you going to run towards it? What are you going to embrace? What's going to be similar? What are you going to change? One thing I absolutely was adamant on was we're gonna see the demon. We're gonna see the thing that's possessing her, and whether that's all in Anne's mind, if this is really happening or not, it doesn't really matter. We need this, and we need this demon to be sly and filthy and kind of creepy. Again, here's through. We threw John back in, but it's this whole idea of, like, from the outside, this is what this looks like to the passerby. So you can see why people think she's crazy. They don't get it because they can't see what's happening to her. So I guess this is all in her head, right? I just answered my own question. again, this idea, what I was after was this demon character that was just a piece cut out of darkness. And so we took our actress and wigged her, covered her in some parts she's wearing black body makeup, and in some parts she's wearing a black bodysuit. We painted her face, hands, everything black, gave her the nails, black wig, black eye contacts, so her eyes are black, and then darkened her teeth and her whole mouth actually black. I just wanted her to be this absolute piece cut out of darkness, and I really like that idea. And also something savage and wild, something that almost like, it's like humans evolved one way and this thing evolved a different direction, and then that's what that is. I love this little scene. We got this location. This is the basement is actually downstairs from the kitchen location that we just saw, and it was a house in San Pedro near where I live. So that I like this location because I could skateboard to the location. It was great for my house. It was awesome. We'd seen photos of the basement and it looked amazing. And then we got there and it was slightly larger than a normal sized house bathroom, but not much. It was not really big. The photos did it not that much justice. So we had to get a little creative on how we filmed that scene. I like that jump scare where she turns around and there's Sadie, but we see the first hint of what Anne looks like if she's possessed, and we'll see more of that towards the end of the film. Lorene Landon was an early casting choice. We'd gone, and we were all happy to have her. And she's done all sorts of amazing stuff, not least of all Maniac Cop. And how do I describe Lorene? She's, I was saying to somebody else, I think maybe at the premieres, Lorene, she shows up, she knows all her dialogue, she's ready to go. She is 1,000% committed. So she's one of those actresses that, like, I didn't really direct her much. I mean, there's a little physical, like, could you move a little slower? Could you sit down a little closer to the light? That kind of stuff. That's just blocking. Performance-wise, I didn't really say much to her. She's somebody that, honestly, she's like a ballistic missile. You point her in the direction and you get out of the way and let her do her thing. And she's wonderful in this. She's so subtle. She's so loving. As obviously she's the demon masquerading as Anne's mother, or possibly possessing the spirit, channeling the spirit of Anne's mother and Jennifer, and channeling her that way. Either way, the thing that Anne is speaking to in that scene is the demon. Is Avashitat, whose name we only kind of reveal towards the end of the movie. So it's a lie. And traditionally, when you go back and you read a lot of the medieval stuff about demonic possession, which I have a little bit in research for this film and just, recreationally, the demon and the devil in the Bible and everything, they're always referred to as liars. They're deceivers. They're tricksters. They flatter or they threaten or anything, but words are their weapons. And while we lost some of the demonic dialogue in this film, and that's a shame because if I do say so myself. Anyway, we do have this scene at least, which is great, and I love this, and I love the imagery. I love just the hint of the awfulness. It's a chance to world build. It's a chance to talk about what could a demonic domain be like. Is it like the Christian, traditional idea of hell? Is it something else? Is it like the Inferno? Is it like something else? Right? You get to describe it kind of in sensations, and I thought that was really fun to do, and I like putting these words in Lorene's mouth, and I love the way she said them. So there you go. What more can you hope for? But this was a selling point for the film, really, that we were trying to hit, was like, hey, look, this is an exorcism film that has 3 exorcisms in it. There's 1 in each act. It's like 3 times your fun for your buck, man. But also, like, I mean, it keeps each exorcism from being that long, because No matter how cool you're doing it, that can possibly get old. You know, you never know. And it let us do each 3 different styles of exorcisms. You can see the colors are totally different. The first one has a lot of red and purples in it. This one is all kind of greens and ambers, and you know, there's these like kind of blues. And then the final one becomes all my 2 actual key colors for the film were bright red, and like Coca-Cola red, and cerulean blue. Which cerulean blue, if anyone hasn't taken color theory or whatever, it's a blue that has a little bit more green in it. You see a little bit of it here on Anne's face, and it gets a little more prouder towards the end. The idea being that these 2 colors keep bouncing around within the film, and as we evolve towards the end, by the time we get to the end scene, the entire scene is just nothing but red and cerulean blue, and you don't really notice it. It's not like that just happened. That's been evolving the whole time. So I was really working with Chad and with especially with Oreo, my gaffer, on these 2 colors, and really trying to like dial them in and build them as, and of course you're shooting the film out of sequence, so you're having to track all across the script on whatever you're shooting on scene whatever day, how to keep that consistent, that evolution. And you know, I think we mostly succeeded. You know, it's and it's not supposed to be a math equation. It's supposed to be artistic. It's supposed to be creative. So, you know, the ability we have with lighting these days, you know, I mean, I still remember shooting stuff in the 2000s with airy kits and gels and everything else, right? And we shot, I shot my previous, I shot a pilot for a martial arts series right before this film, and then shooting this film. And I think we did not use a single light that was not an LED light. And I'll tell you, I am 100% down with LED lighting. The amount of control you have is incredible. They are lightweight. They cool down amazingly well, so you never have that moment where you're done filming for the day and you got to hang out for another hour while the lights cool down. I mean, they're cooled in like 10 minutes. They're great. We had these beautiful, huge banks of lights. We had a Fresnel coming in the window I mean, plenty of these scenes that take place at night or during the day or at night. I love this bit where she gets possessed by like kind of the good, and we have all this dialogue. I don't know if Sadie will be upset with me if I explain that, if I tell you that
I do.
some of that we had to loop some of the Latin. There was some big Latin phrases, and it was a little.
Turns out that you were right.
It was a little challenging, but she got it. She got there.
Figured out the demon's name.
This is type of color here. We do this, you know. Well, it started out subtle, and it got actually a little less subtle.
Seems like you earned your money out.
Where some of the color comes back into the film at this point. At this moment here, we're kind of right around the end of the second act, where Anne thinks she's succeeded. She thinks she's banished this demon. She thinks she learned its name, which you know is something that Father Jeffrey tells her towards the beginning. That if you can learn the demon's name, you have power over it. She believes she has done that, and she believes she's succeeded. And she goes to visit Father Jeffrey to tell him that, you know, thanks for the help, because that worked out. And you can see we've brightened the color. We've warmed up everything at this point. Sort of more like a conventional film, like a romantic comedy or whatever else counts as a normal film that I will probably never make in my life.
I hope things work out for you.
Anyway.
I really do.
But that's nice. It's nice to have this little thing. This location was awesome. This was like above a really nice recording studio, and it was just this like crappy 70s apartment that they just kept, and they rent out as a film location, and we got to use this. And the best part about it is it has a window in the kitchens that I could shoot through on this angle over Vernon's shoulder, because otherwise it's going to be really cramped. So you can get the camera back. It's very important. It's really nice. Sadie hates the fact that there's no that teapot or that coffee maker is so prevalent and empty, and so obviously empty. So I thought I'd point that out since it drives her so crazy. Well, we'll make sure you all know about it. Vernon was great to work with. I will say the only problem with Vernon is that Vernon does like telling stories about, you know, doing Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger, or doing The Road Warrior or / Mad Max 2 with George Miller. And I can't get enough of those stories. So, between takes,
It's
if we
pretty
were changing a
obvious.
camera lens or a light, I'd ask him, a question, and he'd start telling me a story. And then we'd be ready to shoot, and Vernon's not done with the story, and I'm not done listening to his story. So everyone on set's going like, we need to go. And I'm like, no, he's telling me about
Not my family.
the transit
I'm-
between the two
I'm
cars in the
just
Road
now
Warrior 2.
figuring it out.
I just wanted to hear those stories. When else am I going to get to hear all about the filming of Mad Max too?
Finally
Come on,
found
man.
this.
Vernon's great, and he was a great presence on the set. He's a veteran actor. He's incredibly fun and nice. And I think it's easy to miss the fact that he's doing an accent in this film. He's Australian, and his accent is very Australian. He's lived in America for quite a while, but he's still got that Australian accent. But he's upping up a little bit in this, and he sounds a little more English and a little bit more refined than his. No offense to anyone Australian, but it's a little more like an educated, higher class accent. So it's really great. It's a beautiful little scene with Sadie and Anthony. Lit beautifully, shot at night. That's all fake light coming in, the thing. And again, this is the
Same thing as you do.
San Pedro location upstairs from the
Oh, a lot.
basement.
I know.
So there's kind of two locations that we used for. We used one location in Atwater Village, and then we used another location here, and kind of blend the two. And the idea is that with her gone, and maybe not much else to do except raise the kid, Daniel is working on the house, and he's slowly thing. But I think the thematic thing of that is that Daniel is
The demon is alive.
trying to rebuild the house, and
Cannot
in a
be
way,
trusted.
hopefully maybe
Words
rebuilding
that speak
their relationship
stand
and
on
having
their
it ready for if and when she hopefully comes home
Their
again.
value is as the trumpet
It would have been easy for Daniel to have another girlfriend now or whatever. Here we just see the color drop out as soon as she sees this bug on his neck, which I, probably should have gotten a close up of, but it's what it is. But I want to feel that devastation in her face. It would have been easy for the husband to have moved on, have a new girlfriend that hates, Anne and whatever. And I didn't want that. I just wanted there to be that hope. There's a cross in the wallpaper behind him. If you look right to the right of that little bookcase, there's like a raised ridge in the thing, and I'm obsessed with that. I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't plan that. That just happened. It's nice when that happens, especially if I didn't have to do any work. I think that was an insert shot I did. I love John in this scene. He's great in this. It's where he talks about. There's a little bit cut out where it's all about how he wrapped his bike around a thing and he's on painkillers and stuff. And that's in the film. There was more to it originally, but we cut it down a little bit. But it's great. I like the idea. Sadie wanted a smoking scene in the film. I don't know why, but yeah, that's cool. I've made it work. Yeah, John's greatness. And again, talking about sound, this is we're 10 feet away from a main road, and the sound was, I'm not kidding, like goddamn awful, but we made it work. It was great. It's important to have good people.
to leftward.
I think most guys can sympathize with this thing where he sort of makes a pass at her, kind of invites her out, and it's almost worse that she doesn't say no. She smiles, and there's pity in her smile for him because he's kind of not in her class really. and the moment where he's like, can I just go back in time and have not said that maybe, but it's too late. We shot actually in December, so it helped that we actually had sort of existing. We added some Christmas decorations to things, but there were some existing Christmas decorations, there. So that kind of helped. The offset of that being a location like this that had no heat, and we're filming in, it was really cold. And there's a bathtub scene coming up that I'll talk about with Danelle that really came to be. That's my finger standing in for Vernon's, I believe. We scaled it up. Here's where Father Jeffrey has figured out the demon is tricked her, because he mentions earlier that in doing all the research, Anne has not brought home Dante's Inferno, and he kind of jokes about that. I've been obsessed with this one part of the one canto in Dante's Inferno about Rubicante. I don't know why, but it takes place as they're going across the Malabulge. I remember first reading in New York City in a similarly unheated apartment I was living in the middle of winter. There you go. I would have been 99 or something. Anyway, so Father Jeffrey, in going back and reading it, and when she tells him the name Rubicante that the demon supposedly gave her, that she thinks has given her power over it and banished the demon, Father Jeffrey recognizes the name, goes back through Dante, finds that verse, and realizes that the demon has tricked her. So that's how that works. We shot this scene very quickly because obviously Anne has figured out it hasn't worked because she's seeing these bugs and things again. So something is still not right, and she realizes that she's been tricked. So she has to do this kind of research, and we had to get her this idea that if she could get to a point where she almost dies, the demon will jump out of her into the next living thing. So we had to get her to that point. So we shot the scene super fast at the end of one night. We had no time at all, and this is why you work with people you've worked with a bunch, because I started explaining how I was going to do it to Sadie, and she's like, stop, I got it, let's do it. And we shot it once or twice through the lens, swapped out the lens, and then I did this thing where I cut it all chaotic. Here's the scene I was we were doing this bathtub scene, and the idea is that the thing inside Anne is now spilling over, and it's affecting everyone around her, and it's obviously affecting the sister-in-law. And she has this nightmare in the bathtub that her brother sexually kind of assaults her and also tries to drown her. And it's this really intense, disturbing scene, which is a hard scene to film, and you got to really make sure everyone's comfortable and safe. Obviously, Danielle's not wearing much in this scene, so you have to be conscious of that and everyone's comfort, and that's important to me. The real problem was that the house had no hot water. It only had cold water. So we boiled as much as we could and put it in there to keep it as warm as possible, but Danielle was in freezing cold water that whole scene, and I will tell you, I shot that scene real damn fast before she got hypothermia. She was such a trooper for that, though. She did it. She showed up. She got through it, and I think she's proud of having done that scene. She should be, because I wouldn't have wanted to do that scene. That was intense for many reasons. I don't think anyone else on set would have wanted me to do that scene.
Last call. You want anything else?
Okay. This is that same house right there. I love it. It's just it had just ugly wallpaper from the 70s. It was great, and my whole idea was this was maybe Father Jeffrey's mother's house, that when he gets kicked out of the clergy, he has to go move in where his mom used to live after she died or something. So there you go. Some of my favorite shots in the film, this dolly past this, the pink Christmas tree, not ours. That was part of the bar. They were like, do you want to change it? I was like, heck no, man. I want that pink Christmas tree in my horror movie. Look at the lighting here. We're getting really into this red and blue kind of thing, and more as the film goes on. It's great. I do enjoy how clueless the motel manager is. He's just. We added the makeup, that little cross tattoo on his cheek. That was my request, and Bea, our makeup artist extraordinaire, who did all the makeup for the film and just nailed it, including the demon. Put that on him every day he was on, and it was perfect every time. It's that idea of like a mistake that this was John's second day of shooting ever on a film ever. He had to do this scene and have me direct him. I'm sure there's things that are more awkward than having to tell another guy how to have sex in a movie and tell him when he's getting close to finishing and all that kind of stuff. I've experienced very few things more awkward than that in my life, though. That's really strange. It's very alien feeling, but it's part of the job. So there you go. Here we go. The insert of the demon swapping places when she looks up and it's the demon mounting her. That was shot days apart. So, this is a tough thing where like you have one scene that you've shot different elements of the scene over different days, and you have to make sure it all fits together. And it works out pretty good. And of course, the joke is that, as she's trying to get him to choke her so that she almost dies, and she's trying to push him to a point, this man, it's why she's being unfaithful to her husband. She's so desperate. The point of it is, this is how desperate she is she's willing to do this. She's willing to, this is her. this is almost her nadir, right? For her character, this is as bad as it gets almost for her. Leading up to her attempting suicide, so she tries a different way. This is again, right at the end of the third act here, beginning or right at the end of the second act, I should say, beginning of the third act. Here's our third. There's a lot of threes in there. This is our third shower scene, and here we go. We have this scene. I was obsessed with this idea forever. It's just this idea of like you look at your hand and it's just this melting amount of black, and of course that matches the demon. So that's that idea for that.
That's what you do, right?
I like shots where we find the focus. That's always been a favorite of mine.
We're all used
I think it's a nice. It's really inside the feel of the character.
At the end.
This was fun. I wanted to do this in one.
Next host.
You know. Sometimes you try to do a scene in one, without moving the camera and doing coverage. Well, I guess it's not one because there's inserts of the butterflies, but
You're not
that's
going to
okay.
get my son.
Sometimes you do that to save time, and
I don't
sometimes
care what I have to
hopefully
do.
you do it as an artistic choice, and that was the idea, was
You're
to
not
to
gonna
run this
take
like
him
a
like you
like a
did
stage
me.
scene, and have Sadie just
You
go
hear
for
me,
it.
you
Great.
son of a bitch!
I will say trying to film butterflies is just as much of a circus as you would imagine. You have an entire camera crew jumping around trying to get this super tight focus on these little tiny critters that just about as soon as you really get them in frame, fly off somewhere else. we spent probably about 30 ridiculous minutes getting these shots of these butterflies, and then every once in a while one would just land just where we wanted to, and it worked out perfectly. But when they say, I've worked with animals in films, and sometimes it's great. Butterflies, I will say, not so much. I don't know if I'm going to be working with any more butterflies. I think I'm done. Sorry, guys. Tell your agent.
What are you doing here?
This was my home too.
This is another cold night scene we shot. We shot some other stuff during the day, I believe, and then we shot this one at night outside Anne's house. And of course, the idea is that
This thing you're
she's
dealing with?
come here looking at what she can't have.
Daniel thinks
In the
it's
script, there
drugs
was a
or prescription
darker
medication or mental illness.
thing happening that I wrote that
isn't, though.
at some point we decided
it?
maybe went a little too far, where she was going to have a knife and she was going to have these sort of
I
flash
think you've always thought I
forwards
hated you.
of
I don't.
the idea that to protect her son from being possessed, she's going to kill her son.
Look, you made
And this
Daniel
is
happy.
to show
And I love
just
to hear
how
that.
bad it's gone for her, that she's not thinking right? And in
This
trying to
thing,
kill the son, obviously
It makes me
Daniel
regret.
and Meredith have tried to stop her, and she's
Daniel,
stabbed
to your
them
son.
too. And the final thing would be her holding the son
spilling
covered
over,
in
isn't
blood,
it?
and there would be these super quick flashes of while she's sitting in the car, of like her sort of imagining what it's going
I
to be
saw it
like.
the other night.
And the idea would have been,
Then
on
yesterday
the
at that
news,
house
someone
when
would
I
turn
saw
on
your
and say,
face,
crazy woman
I hope you
kills
can beat this
son
Daniel,
and,
I really
and
do.
family,
But
and
until then, don't
then
come around
herself,
here anymore.
which is something we're used to seeing in the news all the
I
time.
mean it.
And
You
the
come
idea
here
was no
again
one would
and
ever
you won't be
know
sorry.
why
I
she
will
did
make
that.
you
And just
sorry.
like people in the depths of mental illness in real life, that do horrible
Good luck.
things, and they're horrible and they shouldn't do them, obviously, but
Merry Christmas.
we'll never know what was going on in those people's minds. So there was this little idea of that. Time, resources, and just, I don't know. I think we all reached a point where Sadie and I both agreed, like, you know what? We don't need that. The movie gets dark enough without that. It's okay. So we're left with just this scene where Meredith confronts her. But that's important too, because this is the first time someone besides maybe the priest, this is the first time someone has really talked to Anna and said, you know what? What's happening to you is real, because I experienced it too. Meredith, while Daniel, the husband, is being he's ignorant the entire time of what's really going on, his sister has figured it out because she's witnessed it. She gets it. She's had these two incidents, one in the basement, one in the bathroom. We have the butterfly emerging from its cocoon, which is just, this beautiful. I mean, we didn't film this. This is footage we licensed. Because, as I said, I was done filming butterflies. Love these shots of the hotel sign. This is perfect. The one challenge of the film is that there's not, as for a horror movie, there's not really much of a body count. there's a lot of terror, there's a lot of threat, there's a lot of danger. But, aside from the mom dying of, possession / natural causes in the beginning of the film, no one really gets axed.
I just need 3 more
And so the
days
solution
till
to
the
that
other
was to
night.
have, after this very awkward incident, the motel manager is watching TV, and the demon comes and whispers to him. When Anne shows up the next day, we see that he's killed himself. He slashed his wrist, and she doesn't see it. She thinks he's just ignoring her, and he's mad at her because she made him have sex with her and choke her and then kicked him out of the room. So she thinks it's just gotten awkward. It's okay. And I like that. I like that the main character is ignorant of what actually is happening. I'll just say we shot this scene very quick and leave it at that. We'll talk about permits or permissions. I'll just say, yeah, we shot it fast. But I think it was important. This idea that Anne's getting ready, and it starts with her saying, "I'm only going to need the room for another day or two," to the manager. And I love this. I don't know why. It's just it's grim, but it's also kind of funny. It's just a do not disturb sign. Having cheated on her husband in the effort to actually, save herself and her son, and having had that failed, Anne has reached the point where she's done. So she's going to try to overdose, and hopefully, as she's close to dying, she can get free of this thing. She's just at her end. That's Sadie actually eating a bunch of Tic Tacs and drinking water, which if you ever had a minty thing in your mouth and then drink a bunch of water, you get that like sharp cold thing that happens. It's a chemical reaction. So that's she's overdosing. If she dies, she's going to have very minty breath. Again, here's this like nice focus. This was going to take place in the middle of nowhere, like an empty zone, like a black zone, like a thing not filmed on the sun or something like that. But yeah, then Sadie found this church, and damn, I'm glad she did, because look at this. Here we go. This is a great scene. I love this scene. There was originally dialogue the demon had that was talking to her about they're going to have her, and when she's done, they're going to have the baby and stuff, and all this stuff. So, there was a decision made that we just didn't need, and it was maybe scary to die. And maybe it wasn't. But we're really starting to lean into the blue. We have some yellow here, but we also have that bit of red. And from here on, for most of the finale of the action film until we get to the coda, these two colors are really gonna thing. The actress we had playing the demon is only about 5 feet tall, so she was up on some boxes and stuff for this scene, because Sadie's quite tall. Sadie's about 5'8". Here we go. And if you notice, the multicolored Christmas lights on the window have now become all red. I'll point that out to you. I'll give you that one for free. Sadie was concerned about how does Father Jeffrey get in the room if the door's locked. And we were kind of, there was a moment where we were kind of like, do we need to explain that? Do we have to shoot a little insert? Do we have to figure this out? I like it. I like that you don't see it. Is it possibly just a little tiny miracle that he's able to open the door? I don't know. But the important thing is that, this guy who's committed sins himself is now going to selflessly dedicate himself to saving somebody. And we say in just a little bit, one good deed, maybe it doesn't undo the bad things you've done. And I personally, I think, believe that. But that's no reason not to do it, right? Why not? Why not try and do the one big good thing if you can? Because, and it's important that, Anne here is at the very end, and she has lost all hope, and she has nothing left in the tank, so to speak. And now she's got someone to help her. She's got an ally, finally. She's been doing this all on her own, and she's done. She's exhausted. This is going to be another shower scene where she's taking a shower and he was sitting outside, and there was this idea or a bath, and there was this idea that she trusts him enough now, this former, kind of predator, that he's turned things around, that she trusts him to be in a bathtub near him and be exposed. I think Sadie was hungry, so she came up with the idea on the fly that they ordered Chinese takeout and have this conversation during it. It was very late at night. I agree to it with the stipulation that I'm gonna shoot this in one. So here's an instance where maybe it's 50% artistic choice and 50% I need to get this done fast because everyone's coming up on 12 hours and we need to get everyone out of here. I think Sadie was just hungry and she wanted a second meal, and she got. There you go. When you're the lead actress and the producer, that's what you get. I should talk about this. Sadie was the producer of the film as well, and that's two, the producer and the lead, and that's two very big hats to wear. That's not easy because there's never a time where there's not something you need to be doing on set, and if you're leading the whole film, you'll notice all the lights have gone blue now. The other lights are red. We're just in this completely blue and cerulean, this completely red and cerulean blue world now. There we go. Here at the end. And I think Sadie wore those two hats exceptionally well. This film was, honestly, the shooting of it went incredibly smoothly. There's the inevitable hiccups that happen. That's it. And I will give myself credit. The black sheets lying at a cross on the bed now, that was my idea. And it worked, which, not everything always does. That one did. It was great. Gretel Falkenstein, our art director, managed to cut those on the fly and kind of make that happen. I thought it was kind of great. I've worked with Gretel's dad, Jim Falkenstein, on a couple of my films, and Jim was one of the first friends I made when I moved to LA and started working on the Reba McEntire show back in 2007 or something like that. And so it was great to work with his young daughter in her first time as a art director on a feature film. That she killed it. She's great. I should thank Ronnie Nanos and Ben Stober, my production managers and art director and assistant directors as well. I don't want to neglect to mention those two awesome dudes because they really helped keep this train rolling. It was fantastic. We have a little hiccup at the Lord's Prayer here that drives me crazy, but no one else seems to be bothered by it, so it's okay.
Over this woman or this world.
Again, this idea that, this works because it works for a few reasons. One, because Father Jeffrey does have, despite his being on the outside of the church now, formally, he still has his faith, and that's important. It works because Sadie's a great actress and pulls off the demonic voice, the demonic, version of Anne quite well. But we had a hiccup in this because there was this idea that we were going to take Sadie's natural speaking voice and lower it and pitch it down, digitally, and have this demonic voice. And we did that, and our one sound engineer, Josh, worked on that for a little while. And the problem is, it was just the pitch of Sadie's voice when we pitched it down. It either wasn't scary, or if you pushed it far enough to become scary, it was hard to understand. And it's just the nature of the timbre of Sadie Katz's speaking voice. So presented with not sure what to do, a decision was made. It was not my decision, but it was made to have me step into the ADR booth and loop all of Sadie's dialogue in the scene. So when you're listening to what all of Anne's possessed voice speaking in this is actually your friendly neighborhood director Jim Towns talking, and then my voice was digitally altered and pitched down to represent that. I believe I sort of and then I actually dubbed all the demonic voices in the other scene where inside the red part of the bed. I did all those too. So there you go. I got a dialogue credit in the film. That was fun. It was we worked with really talented people, and I was able to just get it kind of fast. I think it helped that I'd written all that dialogue, so I knew it pretty well, so I could do it. There you go. I love that moment where she steps on the cross and they're barefoot in it, and it sizzles. That's just it. Joe Castro was our visual effects designer, and he was so good, and he brought so much to this that if I had known what he was capable of doing and how quickly he was, there would have been more special effects in this movie than there are now, because wow, it was really good. all the scenes with the white eyeballs, we used contact lenses for Sadie and for Elise in the bar, and those were incredibly painful to wear. I tried them on one time, and I will attest to you that those are incredibly painful to wear. In all those, you have that very hard outside shell, and we had to digitally kind of smooth that out. So it occurs to me that while we were doing that, we probably could have just had them not wear the contacts and just done the whole white of the eye digitally and saved them the trouble. So, sorry guys. Next time, I guess. The other reason this final exorcism works is it's just a happenstance that in Father Jeffrey's history, someone he knew has encountered the same demon that apparently likes to do this kind of thing. And the idea is that Father Jeffrey's character was sexually abused as a child by his uncle, Andy, and his Uncle Andy had a friend. So the idea is, was it really his Uncle Andy molesting him, or was it a Vashta? We can leave that open, but it's because of that he knows this demon's name, and by knowing its name, he now has power over it. So it's just, is it a little Deus Ex Machina? Yeah, okay, but if you're making a movie about God and the devil, and God takes a place in it, then maybe you're not going too far afield. I don't know. That's just me. I love these close-ups. The black contacts were much easier for Sadie to wear than the white ones, so she wore those quite a bit, and she did okay, but she could not almost see anything when she wore those, so that was a bit of a challenge. Or was the white one? The white ones she couldn't see anything. So yeah, we have some funny photos of me with Sadie posing for stills with the white contacts, and I just sort of pointed her head at the camera because she couldn't see who was taking the photo. Again, great music by Randy Edelman, just nailing it. Some fun editing. This was fun to do and cut together. Again, all the steam and everything. This, I call this his barbecue shot, where he looks like he's just grilling on the Barbie. And it was a bit of a late idea, was to stick all these shots, all these flashbacks, all this stuff, and it's all about what is at stake if they fail. And this final moment where Anne finally is able to conquer the demon is great. I love that. I love where she crushes its head. Oh man, Joe Castro knocked that shot out of the park. I love it.
Are you okay?
And there we go. And we have one final interstitial here of the butterfly in close-up, which, this big, beautiful butterfly in close-up is maybe a little less cute than we would think it would be. So there you go. The morning after, or later that night, I guess. It's okay.
Yeah.
I like this idea that they almost can't believe they did finally succeed. She has failed at this so long, at ridding herself of this demon, that when it's finally happened and she's free, she almost can't believe it, right? Like, she almost can't. Kind of turns out almost my favorite shot in the film right here. She's lovely in the shot. The lighting was just incredible. We kind of upped the red a little bit, but I think it kicked off really beautifully in her face. This is really hard for Sadie. This one moment, saying goodbye to him, it struck a true emotional chord with her, and we had to sort of get her offset for a few minutes and let her kind of just defuse from that, and then we turned around and shot some stuff with Vernon after that. So we didn't lose any time, and it all worked out. But you have to appreciate your actors. Very often they're going to a very sacred, vulnerable place in front of a whole lot of people who are standing around and watching them do it. And I really enjoy writing and directing. I'm glad I don't have to be that person in front of that camera, because this was really late at night where we were filming right in the middle of a street with traffic and no permit or anything, and Oreo's just standing in the middle of the road with a light. People were just going around him. I like this little bit here at the end, this coda, and the idea is we ask you, Lord. Anne does need to go to some kind of therapy and recover from this. And while she was drinking a whole lot during this thing, here's a little cameo by Michelle Costco, our assistant camera person. I just thought she fits in this kind of recovery thing. It was her idea to be snapping her bracelets. That Anne does check herself in and try to get kind of clean from everything that's happened, and hopefully be able to move on from it. But we'll see. This is a scene I shot. I scripted very early on. I knew, we can have the priest be redeemed, but he's done things that are irredeemable. So at some point, I think the audience, we need him to pay a little bit. And does he purposely walk out in front of this bus? I don't know. We'll see. The digital artists managed to put, there's one frame in there, if you were able to go frame by frame, where the bus is hitting him, and because we shot it clean, obviously, and then we digitally did the bus. And there's one frame where Vernon's just sort of bent sideways a little bit as the bus front takes him out. Again, it's the question that I don't want to answer. I want the audience to answer it yourself. Does he know that bus is coming, and he steps out purposely? Does God send that bus to take him out for what he's done? Is that his reward? Is that he gets released from kind of the purgatory of his life? You know, in the aftermath of the things he's done. I don't know. You decide. Either way, it all works. There's no wrong answer. And here we are, right at the end of the film, where we're gonna get this hint that maybe everything's not all right with this when he sees the little bug on him. The bug imagery, yeah, I think it works. It's subtle, and I want it to be subtle. It'd be easy to make it big and hammy, but I liked it being subtle and again having the question in everyone's mind. And that's The Possession of Anne. Wow, that went fast. That was fun. I'm used to doing a podcast that goes for 2 or 3 hours, so this is a smooth hour and a half right here. This is great. I'm so glad I get to talk about this here at the end. I'm glad to be at the end. This film happened really fast. We shot it fast. We edited it fast. We sold it fast. It was great. And I'm thankful to Sadie Katz, first of all, for bringing me on board and helping me, get this thing going. I'm happy I'm grateful for our cast and crew who did such a great job, and were so easy and good to work with. It was really nice, to be at the head of that group. I thank Jimmy and Eileen, who worked tirelessly to get us our budget to shoot this. I'm grateful for our distributors who came in and picked us up both in North America and overseas. So that's about it. Thank you, and I appreciate you guys for watching the film, and then also going back and listening to it again with this guy from Pittsburgh talking about it. So definitely thank you. None of us making this movie are buying houses based on what we made on this movie. It's a job, and sometimes you work harder than your pay grade, and sometimes you do more than one job beyond what you're paid for. And everyone kind of pitched in and did that on this film, and without that, we wouldn't have been able to make it. And they all do that because they love what they do, and hopefully they were a little bit inspired by the project too. And to that, I just that makes me proud. That makes me as proud as anything that everyone was willing to tuck in and really go for it. So I think I'm rambling at this point. So I'm gonna say good night. This is Jim Towns. This has been The Possession of Anne, and thank you so much for watching. Good night.